Good morning, children. In the last video, we've learned phrases and its kinds. Phrases, a group of words without a subject and a finite verb. Now, when we add a subject and a finite verb to phrases, it becomes a clause, or we can also say it's a sentence. So, today the topic that we learn is clauses and types of clauses. Now, we'll restrict ourselves to learn main and subordinate clause. Subordinate clauses, though, are further divided into different types like adjective clause, adverbial clause, noun clause, but we won't get into that detail. That you'll get to learn in 8th standard. So as of now, we learn clauses and types of under types of clauses, main clause and subordinate clause. So children, before we actually move on to our main topic clauses, let me just brief you about the difference between phrases and clause. This will help you understand uh, what is a clause distinctly. So what is a phrase? It is not a full sentence, and hence it does not convey a complete thought. A phrase can have subject but a non-finite verb, not a finite verb. And phrases can be a preposition phrase, adjective phrase, adverb phrase, noun phrase, or a verb phrase. A clause has a subject and it has a finite verb, and therefore it can express a complete thought. And we can also say a clause is a complete sentence. Clauses are divided into independent or main clause and dependent or subordinate clause. Clauses, a group of words. It has subject-verb combination and it has a complete meaning by itself. For example, she goes to school every day and Rohan plays football regularly. Here, she is a subject and goes is a finite verb. And we can also see subject-verb agreement between the subject and the verb. Rohan plays football regularly. Here, Rohan is the subject and plays is the finite verb. So, these two are examples of a clause. Now, if a clause can stand independently and convey a complete meaning on its own, it is called as an independent clause or main clause. And if a clause cannot stand on its own, even though it conveys a complete meaning, but it needs the help of the main clause, such a clause is called as dependent clause or subordinate clause. Dependent, as the name suggests, it depends on the main clause. Independent clause is a sentence, a complete sentence in itself. It can stand alone. That is why the name independent. It does not require help of any other clause to convey a complete meaning. It definitely will have a finite verb, or else, in absence of finite verb, it will not remain a clause anymore. It will be a phrase. This is an example of an independent clause. All the children laughed. It has a subject, all the children, and it has a finite verb, laugh. Now, examples of independent clause are cheetahs are the fastest land animals. Cheetahs is the subject, are is the finite verb. It is very important to brush your teeth twice a day. It is a subject, is a finite verb. The squirrels are busy storing nuts for the winter. The squirrel subject are busy storing nuts for the winter. So here are is the finite verb. I picked a flower for you. Are is the subject and picked is the finite verb. The second type of clause is dependent clause. As the name suggests, it cannot stand alone, depends on the main clause to convey a complete meaning. Definitely, it has a subject and a verb. Now, it is also called as subordinate clause. So, it is dependent on independent or main clause. Dependent clause is joined by a subordinating conjunctions with a main clause. Subordinating conjunctions are words like whatever, until, because, which, etc. And these are used to join the subordinate clause with the main clause. Now, subordinating conjunctions we've already learned in the chapter lesson number 14, conjunctions. So you can refer back to the video links provided. Now, this is a good example for us to understand the difference between main clause and dependent clause. Now, you may eat whatever you like. You is a subject and eat is a finite verb. So, if I halt here, you may eat, it can stand alone, conveying a complete meaning. So, this is a main clause or independent clause. Whatever you like, whatever is a subordinating conjunction, and whatever you like becomes a dependent clause or subordinating clause. Examples of subordinating clause are Gautam won't be able to play in the game because he injured his foot. Now, what is the reason why Gautam cannot play in the game? The reason is because he injured his foot. So, because is a subordinating conjunction, and the words that follow after subordinating conjunctions become subordinating clause. This is a clue to identify subordinating clause. It will definitely have a subordinating conjunction before it. Second example, I forgot where I put the car keys. Now, if you look at it closely, I forgot. If I halt here, I subject, forgot is finite verb. It is a main clause. Where is a subordinating conjunction, and I put the car keys, it becomes a subordinating clause. I can't wait, main clause, until the pizza gets here. Until is a subordinating conjunction, and hence until the pizza gets here is a subordinating clause. Fourth, Alia and Betty want to know. What do they want to know? Which restaurant we should meet at. So, which restaurant we should meet at becomes a subordinating clause. Alia and Betty want to know. It is the main clause. Does anyone know? Here, does anyone know is a main clause. What we are having for dinner. So what we are having for dinner is a subordinating clause, and what is a subordinating conjunction. So children, I'm sure you must have found clauses a very simple topic, and the best way to distinguish between main clause and subordinate clauses, a main clause can stand on its own, conveys complete meaning. Subordinate clause definitely will depend on main clause. Subordinate clause begins with a subordinating conjunctions, bis or wishbone, whichever is easier for you to remember. Also, fanboys, the coordinating conjunctions will join two main clauses. Coordinating conjunctions, fanboys, they never join a subordinating clause with a main clause. So these are a few hints to help you identify subordinate clause and main clause. So also solve the exercises of lesson number 19 given in Grammar Gear. Thank you.